and welcome to the Constitution Line by Line. This is Paul Fabrizio, my colleague from Political Science. I'm Don Frazier over in the History Department.
Here at McMurray University.
Well, you can say that tagline if you want. But what we're doing is we're going through the Constitution line by line, but now we're beyond the original Constitution and into the amendments. Not just any amendment, the First Amendment. And it is a biggie.
Yes.
All right, so we've already handled church and state and practice of religion.
Yes.
And now we're heading into a minor topic.
Minor, very minor. Speech.
Yeah, freedom of speech.
Speech.
So, all right, Paul, what's our line?
Okay. Congress shall make no law on abridging the freedom of speech. Now, I've put together two clauses
Okay.
to make it work. So, Congress shall make no law on abridging the freedom of speech.
What are the two that you put together?
Congress shall make no law.
Ah.
And then it talks about religion. And then the
Freedom
next
of
clause
speech. I see
is
what you
freedom
did.
of speech.
You just put ellipses in there.
There you go.
Okay.
So, freedom of speech. What's it mean?
Yeah, what does that? So you can say whatever you want to say, apparently.
No, you can't.
Oh, why not?
Why not? Well, can you say something that's hurtful to somebody else? Can you lie? Can you be obscene?
Can you say fire, shout fire in a crowded theater?
Famous case before the Supreme Court. That's an example they used back in 1919.
Wow.
And very simple. Can you yell fire in a crowded movie theater? And if there's no fire.
If there's no fire. Yeah, because if there is a fire, you're actually doing a public good.
Yeah, but if there's no fire, the answer is no. And the Supreme Court said that is a clear and present danger to the people around you. So therefore, don't do it. Okay?
Now, wasn't there also another case about that time period of a fellow who was distributing leaflets against the draft?
Yeah, now hold off.
Okay.
Because are you talking about press? When we're talking about speech,
Yes.
we're talking about the spoken word,
Not press.
not press.
Okay.
So hold off on anything about writing.
So this is just spoken word.
This is just spoken word. In other words, what we're doing here.
All right, but
How
that
much-
also incorporates things like hate language now.
Yes.
Okay.
So how much freedom do we have to say what we want? And the first thing to look at on this is the idea that to the framers, this is incredibly important.
Just what we're doing right here, talking about the Constitution
Talking
freely.
about their handiwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are doing it freely. We have this right. To the framers of the Constitution, this is what this freedom is all about. The ability to talk about politics, to talk about government, and this has to be protected. But and see, this is where we run into problems. How far can we go? Can we, in our talking about the Constitution, can we advocate for revolution? Can we advocate for the killing of public officials? And it's those things around the edges where the Supreme Court slaps us down. So we have this tremendous freedom, but don't get too carried away. Don't push it too far.
But those boundaries are feathered. They are not exactly hard boundaries.
It depends on the circumstance.
Well, that's my point. It depends on the circumstance. So therefore,
But
it could be a mobile boundary depending on what the mood is at the time.
okay, can you and let's use the area of domestic violence.
Okay.
Can you say, I'm going to kill you, talking to your spouse when your hand is upraised like that? No, you can't. That is a clear and present danger. That's very, very obvious. That's not acceptable.
Not free speech.
That's not free speech. That is not protected. It's speech, but it's not protected speech.
Correct.
Okay, you are threatening violence. Can you threaten to kill the president? No, you cannot.
You will get a visit if you do so.
You will get a visit. You go to the airport. Can you walk into the airport and say to the transportation security guy, the TSA person, hey, I'm going to hijack this plane?
Yeah, probably a bad idea as well.
Exactly. All under clear and present danger. Okay? So if you are going to say something that could lead to a bad outcome, the court whacks you down.
So where's this clear and present danger coming from? I mean, that's a very specific phrase you're using. Where are you drawing it from?
Okay, Supreme Court actually used it back in 1919.
Okay, so that's where we get the
That's
clear
the
and
first
present
time.
danger.
Yes, and they were trying to come up with a limit to how far you can go on speech.
And they said you can go all the way up to where it's a clear and present danger.
Yeah. Like, you know, in another sense, how far can I swing my fist? Okay? You know, I can swing my fist so far, but if it gets too close to your face, I can't swing my fist anymore.
Because that's a clear and present danger to my lovely mug.
It certainly is,
Okay.
and that's the last thing I would want to do.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So therefore,
Be doomed to radio forever.
So therefore, what we are talking about is how far does your right go before it infringes on somebody else's right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and you know there was 100 years ago we were talking about activity during the World War I.
Correct.
We're talking about anarchists at the time.
Sure.
Subsequently, it evolved into questions about communism, anti-war activities during World War II. How far can they go? Subsequently, you look at the 1960s and various activities that took place in response to the Vietnam War.
Sure.
And all of those,
And civil rights.
civil rights, you better believe it, and all of those have put limits or boundaries, I think is a better way to put it, on what is acceptable and what is not. And the court always starts with the perspective that speech is okay, but then they go, but it's not always okay. And I think this is an important lesson to know. There are no absolute rights. There are no rights that we have under the Constitution that are total every time we can do them in any circumstance. There's limits on everything.
There are limits on every right,
Yeah.
all the enumerated rights.
Yeah, exactly. So it's simply a matter of where the court is going to put the boundaries on freedom of speech.
So tell me how hate language fits into this. Hate speech.
Okay. This is a really interesting. Do you have the right to say, I hate, and you name a group?
Fill in the blank.
Yeah. I hate college professors.
Yeah.
Do you have the right to say that? Yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have the right to say, I hate college professors so much, I want to kill the one that's standing right in front of me? No,
No.
you don't. Okay. That's basically
But what about, I'm really talking about racial slurs and things like that as well.
Okay. Do you have the right to say them? Yes, you do.
Really.
Yes. Freedom of speech.
But
You need to be careful. Can they cause a reaction?
okay.
And that's the whole thing.
Well, wouldn't the reaction be a clear and present danger to the speaker?
It very well could be.
Okay.
And so you got to be careful of that. But again, the bias is in favor of the language, in favor of your saying what you want to say.
Wow, even if it's despicable.
It can be very despicable. And often in these cases, we're talking about people who did despicable things, but they're given the right to speak.
The freedom to be despicable.
Right. Do you have the freedom to be violent? Do you have the freedom to hurt other people? No, you don't.
No. That's
But
clear.
can your words hurt other people? Yes, they can. And you have the freedom to say most of those words.
Wow, that's the old sticks and stones.
You better believe it. Okay? So
Interesting.
yeah. And you know, there's so many things to look at when you come to this. Do you have the right to encourage others to engage in violence? Okay.
Incite violence.
Okay, and you think about the Ku Klux Klan
Yeah.
as the model of this. The Grand Wizard gets up there in front of the white hooded members of the KKK, and he says, we need to go kill people now. We need to go kill blacks now. Does he have the right to say that? And it really comes down to the circumstance.
That's why I'm saying it's very feathered edges on this.
Yeah, if the members of the KKK are sitting there holding their guns, No, that's direct incitement.
Sure.
That is not allowed. But if they're there with their families and they're going to have a picnic right afterwards, yeah, he has the right to say that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable. There's no getting around it. We're talking about people calling on people to engage in hateful activities. But is it a clear and present danger? Is it a direct incitement? If it's not, you have to back off.
That's actually a lot of liberty.
It really, really is. To the framers, this is so important that we have the ability to say what we think.
Because they spoke what was on their mind a bunch.
They did. Remember, they were, in a sense, radicals.
Sons of Liberty. They were the 20% radical element that
Yeah.
were trying to stir everything up.
So they wanted to make sure that that was incorporated into the Constitution. And therefore, that is also, I think that spirit has been reflected by the Supreme Court since then. And there's justices' bias in favor of allowing people to speak. And yeah, it rubs up against people the wrong way, and it makes us feel really uncomfortable. There's things I don't like to hear.
Wasn't that really kind of the birth of the ACLU, to protect speech? Or am I mistaken?
I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that. Can't answer that.
Yeah, the American Civil Liberties Union is
Yeah.
what I'm speaking of.
Right.
Trying to dig that out of the back of one of my graduate school classes.
Yeah, I just don't know that. Now, let's take it a step further. And I'll use me as an example. If you're watching,
listening.
I am speaking without saying a word through the clothes I'm wearing. Okay?
Really?
And I have on this shirt that I'm wearing. If you're watching on YouTube, you can look at it. On one part of it, there's the logo for McMurray University. On another part, there's the logo for Russell Athletics. Okay? I am communicating a message just through the clothes I'm wearing. Is that protected speech? Okay? Do we communicate, do we speak without actually speaking? And the answer is yes, we do all the time.
Well, hand gestures come to mind, especially in traffic.
Yes. Very good. And is that protected speech? And for the most part, the Supreme Court says yes. And the most famous case is the burning of the American flag.
Sure.
Yeah. 1984, I believe it was, at the Democratic Convention, a radical anarchist burned an American flag, was arrested for burning the American flag. And he argued that he was simply exercising his symbolic free speech rights.
Well,
Symbolic meaning he's not saying anything, but by his actions, he is speaking volumes.
he's speaking volumes, just like kneeling at the national anthem on the sideline of an
Exactly.
NFL game.
Exactly. Do you have the right to do these things? And the Supreme Court, one of the most highly controversial decisions ever, said yes, burning the American flag is protected speech. You have the right to do that.
Don't have to like it, but you can do it.
Right. And in fact, it's probably the highest form of political speech you can do by burning the actual symbol of the United States, the symbol that people died for, and going ahead and burning it in expressing your opposition to that country. It's okay. Go ahead, burn it if you want to.
Man, this is one of those parts of the amendment that'll just drive you nuts.
Yeah, it makes you uncomfortable. Congress has tried a couple of times to come up with a constitutional amendment to protect the flag, and you notice we have a flag right behind us.
Sure.
And they just have not been able to get it done. Because to many, many people, our freedom of speech right is so important, it has to include burning.
Yeah.
The
so on the
sacred
one hand,
symbol, if you will.
it's completely makes you completely uncomfortable, but it's entirely liberating at the same time.
Exactly.
Man, another part of the genius of this document.
Yeah. Let's take it a step further. You and I are individuals.
Yes.
If we were to form a company, do we have the right to speak?
I don't follow.
Does a corporation, does a collection of people have the right to speak as a collective? In other words, can your job, the company you work for, can it speak? And
is that speech protected?
And is the speech protected? And it turns out, yeah, you have the right as an individual or with your company, your organization, whatever it is, to go ahead and speak. It's called corporate speech. Now, can you go and lie? No, because that would be fraud.
Ah,
But where do companies, for example, have the right to advertise on TV or on the radio or on the internet? Well, First Amendment,
freedom of speech.
freedom of speech. So let's take it one step further.
All right.
Okay, politicians,
Yes.
do they have the right to lie? Can we sit there?
But pinning them down on a lie is always the tricky part.
That's very, very difficult. You're right. And politicians are usually clever enough to squirrel their way
Yeah,
out
I mean,
of that.
weasel
Right.
words.
Right. But do politicians have the right to say what they want to? And to the framers of the Constitution and to subsequent Supreme Court rulings, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
You,
It almost have to be yes.
it has to be yes. If you're going to engage in political debate, you have to have the right to speak. And as part of that right to speak, it doesn't necessarily have to be truthful.
Or polite.
So you can't sit there and you can't sue a politician for fraud and
Correct.
say, hey, you promised to do this and you ended up doing that. And it's like, can you do that?
Well, and that
we
makes
were
perfect
deceived.
sense.
And the answer is no. You can't.
Because politicians have no ways of controlling all the
Exactly.
mechanisms and levers to bring about their promises.
Exactly.
So really, they should stand up and say, "I'll do my level best to,"
Right.
but that doesn't exactly fit on a bumper sticker.
No, you're right. It doesn't. But let's take it as one more step.
Dang,
Okay.
lots of steps here.
You better believe it. As you look at just this simple document on speech, does that include the right to supporting a politician, giving a politician money? Is that covered under freedom of speech? And the Supreme Court, back in 1976, a famous case called Buckley, said, yeah, giving money to a politician
Is a way of speaking.
is a way of speaking.
Interesting.
So go ahead, give money.
And that means that corporations can give money.
That came along in a subsequent ruling called Citizens United.
Yes.
And it's corporations, it's unions, whatever. Can they speak collectively?
It's their corporate speech.
Can they collectively speak by giving money?
And the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes.
And there's a lot of people that want to bite through their lip when they see that ruling.
Yes. It's how far does it go? And you know, part of it is the Supreme Court allows limits. You know, there's no absolute right. There's limits on them. But it certainly has opened up politics to a flood of money
Yeah.
that we currently have today. But what is that flood of money doing? What's it being spent on? For the most part, it's being spent on advertising
Correct.
to speak to us about politicians. And is that necessarily a bad thing? Some people say yes.
Well, because they don't like the message.
They don't like the message, and they don't like being inundated by the message. And some people say, no, that's okay.
I would be happy with no robocalls to my cell phone. If somebody can get that done, that would be great.
Okay, do companies have the right to make those calls?
Well, not to me personally.
Oh,
They can call your phone
So you want to limit companies' right to get in touch with you,
to troll me.
to troll you. Yeah, and it's troubling when you think about it because it's robocalls. It's
Yeah.
not a person speaking. It's a computer. Does
Hi,
a
this is
computer-
Marcy from the health.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not Marcy.
Click.
It's a robot.
It's a robot. Does a robot have the right to speak?
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
coming. That's
and-
coming.
And we aren't there yet.
Yikes.
We aren't
That
there
is so
yet.
coming.
But, I mean, you think about it. How many of us on our cell phones have Alexa or Siri?
Yeah.
Do they have a right to speak?
Wow.
And it's really the corporation that's doing the speaking.
Hi, Siri. Should I overthrow the government? Ding. Why,
Siri-
yes, you should overthrow the government because today's high will be 80 degrees with a cool south wind.
And we're going to play your favorite music right now.
Yeah, and we'll play your favorite music.
Siri, would you make a threat against so-and-so?
Ding.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Brave new world.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
going to push this. Man, the framers must have been scratching their heads over this.
You wonder if the framers came back today, and they had to do it over, what would they allow?
Well, and it also, I'm starting to understand why the people that said we don't need a Bill of Rights because it'll beg so many questions.
Yeah.
Because in the original document, there was just no jurisdiction of Congress to have impact over freedom of speech.
Right.
Unless it was necessary and proper.
Now, last question.
Please.
Go back to the KKK rally.
Never
Okay?
been.
Never been. Have
For
no
the
desire
record,
to
I've
go.
never been to one.
Okay, but put that in your mind.
Okay, imagine yourself at a KKK rally.
The Grand Wizard is about to give a speech,
Yes.
and his audience is filled with people with weapons. And the wizard is going to call for the members of the KKK to go and kill African Americans.
Okay.
Can you stop that person, the Grand Wizard, from speaking before he speaks? You know what he's going to say. You could have a copy of his speech in your hand. Can you stop him from speaking before he actually speaks?
Wow. That's the old bullet at Nuremberg question. If there had been a
Yes.
sniper at Nuremberg that shot Hitler,
Yeah,
it sure would have saved a lot of people a lot of heartache.
yeah. Can you stop someone from speaking before they speak? By the way, this is called prior restraint.
Prior restraint. Boy, I don't know. That's a puzzler for me.
Supreme Court says no.
You can't stop him, even though you know what he's going to say is going to be inflammatory and present a clear and
There's
present
a
danger.
danger. Yes, a direct incitement. Can you stop him? The answer is no. Because in the end, even if you know that they're going to do it, doesn't mean they're going to do it.
It has
Okay?
to have occurred.
What
you
you're
can't
doing-
pre-arrest for a crime that hadn't been committed. That's like Minority Report.
Exactly, to the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
You would be arresting someone for their thoughts.
That's coming as well.
And see, this is a frightening thing. Are we going to get to the point, is technology going to get to the point where we can be arrested for our thoughts?
Pre-arrested.
Pre-arrested to prevent us from acting on our thoughts. But do we have the right to our thoughts? And in the end, that's probably the absolute right that we have. We can have anything up here, but it's the expression of those thoughts where restrictions are going to come in from the government. And the Supreme Court allows for those restrictions. But what you have in your head,
As long as it stays in your
it
head.
stays in your head, it's yours. And you can think whatever you want to.
Wow.
There you go, freedom of speech.
Well, that's a pretty nice survey of the freedom of speech. That portion of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Anything else?
No, let's go to press next.
So that's our line this time. We'll come up with another part of the line next time.